Excuse me, I'm going to suggest, because do you have any other questions on DC? Because I don't want them to be. Wait. These are incredible people. I don't want them to be standing up here on subjects. Does anybody have a question of them? And then you guys can leave. Okay, a question, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right.
And by the way, this is only on DC, and then they're going to leave because it's unfair to have them stand up here all day long. Brian.
Agree. I've got two questions for you. First, about DC. This is personal for me as well. Last year, I was robbed on the streets by one of these teenage thugs. Had a gun, got away with it. Let's talk about the effort that between law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges, because it's a recycling belt. Like, these kids go, they don't fear the police. They know it. If you talk about how we've got to get these judges and put these kids behind bars, right. Adult crimes deserve adult penalties. And my second question, I'll after you answer that, please.
You want me to answer
it? Whoever wants to take
it. Okay. It's real. Do you want me to answer it? Go ahead. Here's the problem. Assuming that they're 17 years, older than 17 years old, I can get the case. If they're under 18 years of age, I can only get the case if it's murder, rob one, rape, even if they shoot a gun but don't kill you, I can't get it. So the law has to be changed. As the president said, cashless bail. That has to be changed. All right, then, even assuming I get the case, I get jurisdiction, I get a conviction, the D.C. Council has given the judges the ability to give probation on shootings. And so then it's up to them. All of these things, the Youth Rehabilitation Incarceration Reduction Act, and now they want to seal records. So if we work hard, we get a conviction, they want to wipe it out. So that needs all to be changed.
Okay, Mr. Question.
Pam, would you answer that also?
Yeah, and just back to that topic, let's be clear though, we're going to charge them and we're going to track every single thing they do throughout every step of the court process and report back to you and let all of you know what's happening to them, because the people who are prosecuting them, the judges who are trying them, they also need to be held accountable.
Mr. President, you also made the comment. This is the most people we've ever seen.
When's the last time you had?
Last night.
Was it with a boyfriend or just?
Yeah, it was with a boyfriend.
It was with your boyfriend?
It was with my boyfriend. He's so not my type, I would say.
Your boyfriend's not your type?
He's tall and blonde. We are a great couple, I agree, but he's tall and blonde, and that's not my type.
Have you been with a black guy before?
I have.
Rate that experience 1 out of 10.
10.
Smash or pass me?
On you?
Yeah.
Smash.
Smash?
Yeah.
All right, let me get your number.
Okay.
Okay.
It's an evil world we live in.
For the love of all that is good and pure. Did you see? She forgets she's on cam. She forgets she's on camera. She starts out talking about the boyfriend. First of all, she disgraces him, right? She comes right in off the bat saying, oh, he's not my type. He's tall and blonde. That's not my type. Can you imagine this guy seeing the video? Can you imagine a woman that will disgrace a man like this, by the way, on camera is no good. She'll talk nasty stuff about you or say anything publicly, even if it's not on camera, to her friends, to her family, getting on the phone, doing this. You know it. No good. That's nasty stuff to do. I'm not talking about saying, oh man, did you leave your clothes on the floor? And she's on the floor, she's on the phone and laughing and you guys are having I'm talking about, gets on the phone. Oh, you'll never believe what he did to me. Talking about, it happens all the time. No good. So she says, oh, he's not my type. He's tall and blonde, which by the way was a signal because this guy is not tall and blonde, right? So she left the opening there. And he says, you ever been a black guy? And she's like, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. She's flirting with the guy. She just told you she's got a boyfriend. She's flirting with this guy. And then he says, smash or pass. Smash. And she gives him the number. So guys, listen, you may think you have a girlfriend. You may think she's loyal. Is she? What would happen if you had a little hidden camera on her and she walked around on Girls' Night Out? What do you think you would see? I'm just saying there are way too many women now because they have so many options and because they, the pool has just widened for them because of social media and all the direct messages and all this stuff, they have not taken to that power well. They have not blossomed into better people as a result of getting that power and that attention. And it shows. And this woman, Nasty, is a perfect example of that.
Why aren't the police giving us more information about some seriously concerning reports coming out of the Britannia Migrant Hotel in Canary Wharf? Yesterday, concerns grew after a man believed to be an asylum seeker at the hotel allegedly tried to enter a woman's home nearby. But some people said that they thought he'd been chased there, apparently. He'd sought refuge there because he was being chased by people. Onlookers claimed that the man left the migrant hotel and attempted to just simply get into a lady's home. So what we've got there is conflicting information, haven't we? Well,
now he's trying to cover his face, look.
That was the moment there that people who thought they'd seen that man try and get into a lady's house accosted him on the street. Now, the people who claimed to have accosted this man then published a video making some quite serious allegations about what they thought they saw.
We follow him up the road to where we jump out and say, like, mate, what are you doing? You can't be doing this sort of stuff. He runs up the road to Marshall where we follow him. We then detain him. We don't touch him. We phone the police.
Then this video emerged of police officers appearing to suggest that no crime had been committed.
Guys are quite unhappy about the Hunter Street, but we have no allegation to arrest them for. Okay? I understand that that's not something you want to hear, but unfortunately, there's only so much we can do, and obviously, she is the main person that, and she doesn't want to press charges.
She does want to press charges, she just said to me. She just...
Well, then social media erupted again after a video emerged of a woman seemingly being arrested outside the hotel. There was another video that also appeared, which seemed to show a younger lady being nicked on top of that. So, look, it led to a lot of public anger, this, because for some people, it looked a lot like an asylum seeker who may have walked into someone's home was not arrested, whereas a woman demonstrating outside the hotel was arrested. Then this morning, the Metropolitan Police released this statement. They say, "We understand a man entered a property through an open door, having been followed by a group of men in the street. The man has not been arrested at this time, as our initial investigation has not identified any offences. We understand this is distressing for the occupants." In a separate incident following this, a 22-year-old woman was arrested on suspicion of common assault against a security guard, possession of an offensive weapon, a fray, possession of Class B drugs, and an assault on an emergency worker. They go on to say, a Section 35 dispersal order was put in place in the vicinity of the area, and a 28-year-old man and a 57-year-old woman were arrested for breaching the order. This is a complex set of events, and we are working hard to investigate and understand what happened. I must say, I find this all very, very odd, especially in the context of what police and the Home Secretary told us that we'd be getting yesterday. They said that we'd have more information about the ethnicity and nationality of a perpetrator if it was a high-profile case. Well, here we are, aren't we? This is a very high-profile set of circumstances. It's been going absolutely viral on social media for 24 hours, and so far, all the police have told us is that a mystery man, whose age and nationality we don't know, entered a property, seemingly claiming to have been chased in there, and then didn't commit a crime. Well, they acknowledge that this is concerning for the occupants. I dare say this is concerning for everyone in the local area. I mean, if he was being chased and was in fear of his life, then why not just tell us that? It might clear the whole thing up. I mean, there is an information vacuum that is currently being filled by a lot of speculation on social media, and it could lead to things like increased public anger and protest. And the very first opportunity that the Metropolitan Police had to enact this new guidance and tell us more detail, they didn't seem to want to do it. Should they not be telling us more about this? Let's get thoughts to my panel. We've got former Tory MP Anna Firth. We've also got Conservative peer Lord Bailey and ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Anna, there appears to be quite an interesting information vacuum taking place here. Very concerning set of circumstances. Quite straightforward, this, isn't it? If a bloke has left the migrant hotel and claims to have been chased into a woman's home, then we might have some sympathy for him. Why don't you tell us? If it is the case that he's just let himself into that house, well, that's a different story altogether, isn't it?
Well, of course it is. And it does seem extremely odd that the police are not just coming out and just telling us what has gone on, because it could be relatively straightforward, or it could be that he's gone into that house. Certainly, he would have been a trespasser. You know, even if the door was wide open, he'd certainly be a trespasser. You know, he could have used threatening words or behaviour. We don't know. But why don't the police come out and just level up with the public and tell us what's going on? Because not doing so, I actually think not doing so, you know, erodes trust completely in the police.
The new guidance that was issued was designed, or I would argue, specifically for cases like this, where there's a huge level of public interest. It's gone absolutely viral. People were down at that hotel last night protesting about this, and there were conflicting reports coming out. Some people saying all sorts of different things about this, and yet they've not given us anything on it. Why not just tell people?
Let's take a step back and be cool-headed about it. Firstly, the words that express this new protocol, high-profile case, are utterly ridiculous, because social media makes everything a high-profile case. So you now made yourself a hostage to fortune. That's the first thing. Secondly, we mustn't ask the Met to deal with something any differently than it would any other crime, no matter how much we would like that to be the case, because it is a high-profile case. The Met have to be allowed to be police officers in the first instance and in every instance, not have to make a judgment about, well, we have to do this differently because it's a high-profile case. Thirdly, the mayor is absent and he should be here, and I'll tell you why. Sadiq Khan was very vociferous in saying we welcome immigrants. Fine, absolutely fine if you're going to say that. But he has to be here to help deal with some of the fallout from that. Because what the police lack here is political cover. They are much more concerned about what their political paymasters and the press are going to say than the public. And in order for them to navigate that and still have some respect amongst the public, they need political cover. The mayor should be here. He's the Police and Crime Commissioner, therefore, after all, of London.
Look, what has happened here, again, and it's so predictable, is that as far as a lot of people on social media have seen, a lot of local residents have seen, they've seen initial allegations that a man who's believed to have been from this migrant hotel has wandered out of the hotel and let himself into a woman's house, which must be incredibly terrifying. Now, if it is that he's been chased in there, who's in fear of his life, well, that's one thing, isn't it? Let's clear that up. There might even be, you know, some public sympathy for that. We're not being told that. So what the public have seen is a bloke who might have let himself into a woman's house, get told that he's not done anything wrong, he can crack on with his life, and then people who didn't disperse quickly enough from a protest being arrested. And I'm sorry, but I think that's a bit rubbish.
Look, I mean, I think the issue is that the information, the lack of information, can then cause people to get the wrong perspective. I think, you know, we don't know what charges, indeed, if any, are going to result from the offences from the other people. But clearly, if it turns out that what this is mentioned in the Met statement is the case, then that's pretty serious. And as they say, they're looking for further evidence. I think that we basically got into a difficult situation with this phrase of high-profile cases. I mean, there is an argument that we should just have it in every case. That basically you're not going to have the more information should be given in every case, and then that would just stop. That would then give the police the cover they need, so they don't have to make a decision on, they don't have to make a judgment about whether every case is high profile or not, and then would give the public information.
The wording of that police statement, and, you know, maybe I will stand corrected tomorrow, we'll have to wait and see, implied to me like they'd just parked the issue about this guy maybe walking into this woman's house. There was this line in that statement, I don't know if we'll bring it up again, but it said on that statement that basically, you know, he was basically claimed that he was running in. Now, look, forgive me, I don't want to seem like I'm whipping something up here, because I'm really not meaning to, but if I had just wandered into someone's house and I got caught, I might claim to the police that I felt as though I'd been chased in there.
There's no doubt that that's a possibility that they claim that, but it's never simple for the police, because they have to prove something to a certain level. That's why it might seem like they parked it. But the real issue here actually is about the policing of protests. That's where the anger is coming from, because it looks like as long as you support the right-on causes, you can get away with some higher level behaviour. And if you don't support the right on causes, anything you do, you're the people who end up in the police station. And that leads to the term two-tier policing, which the police absolutely hate. Again, they need political cover. Where is the mayor?
But I sort of agree with that, but something doesn't add up here, because we've seen any number of high-profile cases over the years where the police will come out and say that an arrest has been made, or they're talking to somebody who is helping them with their investigations. There are all sorts of phrases that the police normally use. So why aren't they telling us what's going on here? And not to do so is clearly going to cause alarm. It's clearly likely to inflame tensions, which actually need to be, you know, brought down.
But the other aspect too, that word misinformation kept coming up when Yvette Cooper and also, you know, all of the heads of one of the police bodies was announcing this stuff yesterday about releasing more information in case they were like, because it can help stop, you know, dangerous misinformation. We are now in a situation, because of an information vacuum, well, we've had all sorts of stuff here. I mean, by the way, I'm not trying to, you know, say things that aren't true. I mean, there was a lot of rumours flying around last night about what had gone on here that totally contradicted each other. You know, the amount of different people that supposedly lived in this house that this bloke got in at one point, it was ridiculous. I don't know what kind of house it would have had to have been, but there was everybody in there. It was practically a zoo. And, you know, so it can't have all been true. But this gets people quite angry. So there's aspects of basic information here that they could have released that would have told us the truth, would calm everyone down, would mean that tomorrow night and over the weekend there might be fewer protesters outside there, certainly less anger, and they've just not done that. So what was the point of what the Home Secretary, what the police said they were going to do yesterday?
Well, I wonder if this is a case of what the Home Secretary and the police chiefs have been saying at a press conference, not feeding its way down to operational level.
I disagree. Just be very clear.
Yeah.
No amount of information from the police was going to stop speculation and conspiracy theories. That's a fact. All it would have done was given some sensible people at least a touchstone around the truth. But here's the real problem for the police. Again, this is why I call for the mayor and politicians involved, because it issues this. The police can issue a statement and it can inflame things, and they'd have to pay for that. They don't issue a statement and apparently always inflame things. The point is they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. The police are terrible at politics. That's what politicians are for. Where is the mayor? I'm glad you don't think that, but I sit on the Police and Crime Committee and I watch the police struggle every day with should they release the information or not.
But Sean, that means that the police need to be trained better and we need to have better quality police officers. I really don't...
It doesn't change anything.
I'm not excusing the mayor. Of course the mayor should be there. Where is the mayor? Who knows where the mayor is?
Where is he, actually?
Where is he, exactly?
Is he in the country?
I have no idea.
But nonetheless, the senior police officer should be able to level with the public.
Let's talk about levelling with the public. So you level with the public. Two very important things happen. Firstly, we still hold the principle in this country innocent until proven guilty. And it breaks that. And secondly, you might level with the public, right, and then prejudice a case further down the line. So you've got to be very careful.
As I've said at the beginning, we've had so many examples of the police coming out and saying something that's watertight, that calms things down, but doesn't prejudice trials.
And I would argue you've had equally as many examples of the police saying something and it leading to other things. This is how the world works. It's not simple for the police, and I'm not suggesting that the information should be released. I'm just saying it should have politicians in there as well.
I'll just give Matthew final word on this, because what does not appear to be disputed in either the witness statements or the police's account is that a bloke entered a woman's house. That seems to be the fact. So it's what led up to that happening that is in question. And until we know that, you are going to end up with people around that area either in a bit of fear, which some of them already are because of the illegal migrant hotel, or very, very angry about, in their minds, there's a bloke in there who let himself out of this hotel and he's just been trying to get into people's houses and women's houses and all that, which might not be true. It might be that he was running there. So why don't they just tell us? Why don't they give us the evidence? Why don't they say what it is? Because this information vacuum is ridiculous.
Well, I think the information vacuum can't continue for very long. And I think what the police in the statement say they want to look at the body cam footage, etc. I think what we need is updates at the soonest available opportunity once they've been able to review the extra footage. It can't, there can't be no follow-up. We need a follow-up. People in the area need to be reassured, as well as trying to take the flames underneath the protests down if the flames turn out not to be the case.
Yeah.
But so if we are going to give the police the benefit of wanting to get the whole picture, they need to give us the whole picture as soon as they can.
Just finally on this, sorry, but quickly, I think it's important because I actually feel sorry for a lot of frontline police officers who are at these protests, because I get messages through online from people who are some of these police who say that they really don't want to be there.
Yeah,
they say they do not want to be there. They are not in favour of a lot of these migrant hotels. They're not in favour of the criminality, not saying this case specifically, but the criminality generally that we've seen from some of them, and that they do not like the fact that they have to go out there on the front lines and stand opposite people that they agree with and maybe sometimes arrest them for not dispersing quickly enough. They don't like it.
But that's the whole, that is the key point, Patrick, that we haven't really discussed. This is a completely inappropriate place to have illegal migrants. It's, you know, it's in the middle of Canary Wharf, which is our preeminent financial district. That's a 4-star hotel that normally would be making £400 per night on those rooms, probably from people coming from abroad.
Well, they're making as much
meetings.
as that now.
Yeah, but we're paying for it.
I get it. I get it. I'm not in favour of it, but let's be clear, they're still making money.
But that's the whole point. We're totaling our own economy. Instead of having foreign exchange coming in, we're spending our own taxpayers' money.
I want to go back to this point about police officers. If a police officer agrees with what's going on, irrelevant. But what is relevant is that a lot of police officers are terrified of losing their career by doing the wrong thing to a right-on cause, and that's what we've got to stop.
Okay.
The fate of all tech companies will now be decided by their AI capabilities. Google's CEO thinks that AI is
the most profound technology humanity is working on, more profound than fire or electricity or anything that we have done in the past.
Microsoft CEO said that with AI,
we are going to go to the next level of abstraction.
Zuckerberg's even spending billions poaching the best AI researchers to work on their own AI replacements.
We're trying to build a coding agent that basically advances llama research specifically. I would guess that like sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll reach the point where like most of the code that's going towards these efforts is written by AI.
It's clear that big tech is having a competition over whose language model is the largest, because the race to AGI will define everything in the future. They're so sure of it that these CEOs are now spending hundreds of billions building data centers and poaching top researchers, all just to get a leg up in the race. And then you've got Apple. With OpenAI building ChatGPT and Google working on Gemini, there was just silence from Apple. But seemingly for Apple's fans, and especially for CEO Tim Cook, it was nothing to be worried about. While other tech companies scrambled to reach AGI, Apple took their time. Tim Cook hadn't grown Apple's value to over $3 trillion by rushing products out of the door. The playbook was to wait, see how the competition tried things, and then to do it better. Lots of people expected it would be the same with AI. Ever since ChatGPT went mainstream in 2023, Apple fans have been patiently waiting for their take on the new technology. Google, Microsoft, everybody was jumping in on this. And so the first opportunity Apple had was at WWDC 2023. Their annual software expo turned general purpose hype generator. Modern generative AI hadn't been out for very long, but people were still hopeful. Surely Apple had been ahead of the curve. But fans just got the yearly iOS update and news on the new M2 chip, but nothing about AI, which was quite surprising. Instead, the big reveal was just this random Apple Vision Pro. It was new and cool technology, but it wasn't AI, one of the most important technologies in the world right now. The thing that's going to change society forever. And so the next year came and went, and whilst the craze around AI showed no signs of dying down, with AGI looming over the corner, Apple's lips remained sealed. By 2024, Apple fans were desperate just for a crumb of AI from Apple. But was Apple gonna deliver, or just delay it yet again for another year? The presentation started out as usual. After a cute little intro video, Apple's various executives went through the motions of talking about each Apple product they had been working on. First, it was the Vision Pro and the Vision OS. There were updates to iOS as well as macOS, iPadOS, watchOS, and every OS under the sun, but no single mention of AI. Just as the presentation felt like it was coming to an end, Tim Cook walked on screen. Surrounded by implanted trees and perfect shrubbery of Apple's circular HQ, he finally began to talk about AI. In fact, it wasn't just AI anymore, it was gonna be Apple Intelligence. The feature list was impressive to say the least. There were AI-assisted writing tools and audio transcription, new emojis that AI makes for you, AI photo editing tools, AI image creation software. AI could even summarize your notifications for you. If you got a long paragraph from your boss or partner, AI could just pick out the important bits and get rid of the rest. AI could even look at a picture of something from your camera and tell you about it, a feature that Apple called visual intelligence. It was all amazing, new, innovative stuff, but the only thing on everyone's mind was the crowning jewel of the presentation, a whole new AI-powered Siri. This was a key thing. As we've seen with Johnny Ive, the guy who designed the iPhone, joining Sam Altman at OpenAI, all to integrate their AI into physical products, everybody was expecting Apple to make a comeback and really compete in the AI race. Especially because since 2010, Siri felt like the future. But once the novelty quickly wore off, people realized it was just far easier to do it yourself. And after nearly 15 years, it's barely improved at all. Siri still struggles with basic tasks and it can barely understand what people even say. That was until now. The key was integration speed and reliability, letting it do things like this as shown in one of Apple's biggest commercials.
Siri, what's the name of the guy I had a meeting with a couple of months ago at Cafe Grinnell?
You met Zach Wingate at Cafe Grinnell.
It wasn't the only feature they promised though. Need to find an address someone sent you without scrolling back through the messages? Siri had the answer. Need to reach into your phone and find some old documents or details from years ago? Siri would know how to navigate through it all, down to the names of people in your photos. New contextual awareness meant that Siri was going to be like an actual person inside of your phone, who would understand any question you asked it. Even if it didn't have the answer, it could just pass it on to ChatGPT instead, all securely and without sharing your data of course. People were hyped up. Apple had promised their loyal fans the world. They weren't going to let them down, right? Apple even made it the biggest selling point of their next line of phones. Only the previous years' Pros models in the iPhone 16 series would have Apple Intelligence, and Apple's built an entire brand on trust and loyalty. And the best part was fans didn't have to wait long. The conference was in June and they had seen it all working right in front of their eyes. The release date was just a few months later in October, so how did it go? You know how Siri used to make life easier by doing the heavy lifting for Apple users? Well, Video AI is doing the exact same thing for video creation. It's like having a virtual production studio in your browser. No cameras, no crew, no editing timeline. Just your idea and a text prompt. Just type in what you want to make a video about and Video AI transforms it into a full-length piece of content.
Imagine having a personal assistant who can understand your emotions.
It's that easy, and yes, it's game-changing. With no timelines, no learning curve, you get a full-length video in minutes. You can clone your voice or edit the video with simple text commands like make it feel more dystopian. It isn't here to compete with human intelligence, but to complement it as your creative partner. AI might seem like a threat, but when used right, it gives you more space to focus on the parts of content creation you truly enjoy. AI isn't here to replace creators, it's here to empower them in meaningful, practical ways. And start turning your ideas into stunning videos today. First, you've got the things they actually delivered in time for release. Photo cleanup and audio transcription from notes worked most of the time. There were the writing tools and visual intelligence, but these were things people had already seen from other companies. In fact, visual intelligence actually used Google and ChatGPT to function at all, literally one of Apple's main competitors. But lots of other features were just simply missing. Genmoji and Image Creator would only release in December of that year. Priority notifications was even slower, finally releasing in March of 2025. Then you had the related notification summaries. They were in there from the start, but they were also hilariously broken. Millions of people using the new feature received this notification from Apple News shortly after launch. And it wasn't the only case. Apple disabled the feature shortly afterwards, but all of that was just water under the bridge as long as AI Siri worked. But that feature, the one that so many commercials had leaned on, that they had used to sell millions of iPhones, just seemingly was nowhere to be found. Almost insultingly, the only part of it they had released was the colorful redesign for activating it. All of the looks with absolutely none of the substance. Apple Intelligence boiled down to a few tired features other companies had done so much better. Improved Siri still hasn't even been released today, with Apple now saying they're hoping for a 2027 rollout. All in all, the release was an unmitigated disaster. The shareholders even sued, and Apple's loyal fans felt the sting of betrayal. iPhone 16 users who had shelled out hundreds or even thousands for Apple Intelligence were left with pretty much nothing. The iPhone 15 was almost exactly the same as the iPhone 16. This was Apple. one of the most trusted companies in the world, with one of the best reputations and amazing products. Now, they're just rushing things out the door with barely any of it working just for a quick buck. For lots of Apple's more casual fans, it was completely unexpected. But for people paying attention, this was yet another chapter in a very long book of disappointment. And to uncover what was behind the blunder, we really need to go into how Apple has changed over the past decade and a half. Now, it's really impossible to overstate how much Steve Jobs and his legacy have done for Apple. Years and years later, it still feels like the company exists in his long shadow. But their next CEO, Tim Cook, has arguably done a lot more for Apple shareholders. You see, Steve Jobs laid out the groundwork. He did all the hard parts. He created the amazing products, worked insane magic for the brand's reputation, and laid the perfect groundwork for Tim Cook to scale. And since he took over, Apple's valuation has soared from $300 billion to $3 trillion, allowing Apple to become the largest company in the world, only recently losing the title to Nvidia in 2024 due to AI. Despite all the mistakes and the blunders that we're about to talk about, Tim Cook's position was never really in question. He knew exactly how to keep Apple on top, and that was by squeezing as much money out of Apple's customer base as humanly possible. Lots of these methods will be pretty familiar, but it still boggles the mind just how far Apple has gone with them. First, there's tiered pricing and upselling. Before Tim took over, iPhones pretty much just had one yearly model. The last iPhone released under Steve Jobs was the iPhone 4S. It was the only iPhone they released that year, and it was a direct upgrade from the previous one. Under Steve Jobs, it was always like this. One phone a year that was a direct upgrade with new features. A couple years later, Tim began experimenting with the tiered pricing model by releasing both the iPhone 5S and the cheaper 5C. This was on top of the fact that they already charged for extra storage. And this was an amazing success financially for Apple. So over time, Tim Cook would steadily add more versions to iPhone releases, until you get to the most recent release with the iPhone 16. Now we get two models, the base version and the Pro, each with their own Max version as well if you want a slightly larger screen. The prices have gone up as well. Articles from the time show that iPhone prices were generally in line with other flagship phones at the time. Today, iPhones are at least a couple $100s more than their competitors, and as we mentioned in this video before about the iPhone 16, it's often just overpriced with no real new features. This is especially the case if you get the Pro or the Max, as you're paying almost double the initial price for not that much more. But this also revealed another tactic that Tim has put into place, planned obsolescence. Now, people imagine this term as making a product that just breaks after a certain amount of time. While that might still be true, it's far more lucrative to get people to buy another one in other, more subtle ways. Take the storage issue. On a phone, if you needed more storage, then you would just add an SD card. Only you can't do this with an iPhone. Apple never added the slots. In fact, with their other products, Apple have gone out of their way to make it almost impossible to upgrade storage. In 2012, Apple started soldering the RAM into place on their MacBook Pros, and in 2016 they started doing the same with their storage as well. Funnily enough, these are the major upselling pressure points. The so-called cheapest 14-inch MacBook Pro is $1,600 on Apple's website, and the most expensive model is $400 extra, and it's pretty much identical. Identical except for the fact that it comes with 500 extra gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes more of RAM. The very same upgrades that would cost around $50 for a PC depending on price fluctuations. Apple has pushed their pricing as far as it can go. Why include the headphones in the box when you can just take them out and charge hundreds of dollars more as extras? Tim Cook made this tactic into an art form, really taking Steve Jobs' simplicity mindset to a whole other level. In 2019, Apple released a $1,000 monitor stand to go along with their $5,000 computer monitor. Even the stacked audience at their reveal event didn't like this one.
The mount adapter will be $199 and the Pro stand $999. And like the Mac Pro, they'll all be available in the fall.
It's peak Apple pricing, something so absurd you wouldn't even believe it if it wasn't true. Yet even with all of this, Apple has been growing other areas of revenue far more than their products. As you see, a massive amount of Apple's revenue now comes from services, not their products. It isn't just their actual subscription services like Apple TV Plus either. Apple makes tons of money from their strange system of insurance subscriptions. Apple Care can give you insurance for your Apple devices. You're actually likely to need it as well, considering how hard they make it to repair their products yourself. But even if you pay the subscription fee, which isn't cheap at all, it doesn't cover everything. Another sneaky source of income has been the App Store. Before 2020, Apple used to charge a flat 30% commission on any transaction made through an app on iOS. Lots of companies just passed it on to the consumer. Patreon subscriptions, for example, were just more expensive through iOS. But Epic Games, who were shelling out millions and millions to Apple from in-app purchases in Fortnite, weren't happy about this. So much so, they sued Apple for what they saw as monopolistic practices. But after years in the courts, Apple won most of the case. They could still charge their commission and it was all over, right? Well, not exactly. The only caveat was that Apple had to let apps direct people to outside payment services which Apple couldn't take a cut from. Obviously they didn't want that, so they stood in the way as much as possible. If an app tried to send people somewhere else to pay, Apple would throw up this scary message warning people about security. They also kept charging a commission, although this time it was just 27% instead of 30%. Eventually in 2025, years after the whole battle had begun, this too got brought up in court. Judges weren't too happy about Apple just sidestepping their orders, forcing them to drop the 27% charge as well. This loss of future revenue has hit Apple hard, but compared to some of their other problems, it barely scratches the surface. Quite early on in Tim Cook's time as CEO, people began talking about whether he might take over one of Steve Jobs' forgotten projects, the Apple car. For most of the 2010s, Apple under Tim Cook flirted with the idea of getting into the automotive industry. If they can make the first real self-driving car, Apple would corner another market potentially for decades to come. It was a big dream though, and at first it didn't go very well. In the early 2010s, Apple discussed various deals with car companies, only to back out of all of them later on. Rumors were flying, but Apple never announced any progress themselves. It was clear they were still interested though, and by 2015, Tim decided they could just do it themselves. He started pouring billions into the research, hiring over 1,000 engineers to work on the project. And 2016 saw Apple rehire a retired executive to try and kick things into shape, with more layoffs and new hires. But then it just went all quiet again. A 2017 report from the New York Times even said that Apple had given up. But later that year, Tim Cook announced that they were in fact still building an autonomous car. By 2018, Apple registered some self-driving cars with the California regulators. They were even testing them out on the roads, but an actual product release was still years away. A 2020 report from Reuters estimated a release date at 2024, but then things just went quiet again, this time for years. It wasn't until 2022 that we really heard anything again. This time, Bloomberg reported that Apple was delaying it again until 2026, and that the car would only go on the highways now. 2 years later, and even that was walked back, and in an internal memo, Apple cancelled the project entirely. The remaining staff working on it were laid off, and the whole thing was just shelved indefinitely. Tech companies are obviously no strangers to burning money. Just ask Zuckerberg how his metaverse is coming along. But some reports say Apple spent over $10 billion on the Apple car only to end up with just nothing. And it really puts things into focus. The whole mess sheds light on how Tim Cook has run Apple since becoming CEO over a decade ago. Instead of a unified vision for the future, it's all become too large for him to control. He's been great at extracting value from customers. He's the best in the business of that, and it's made his shareholders very happy. But leak reports and the evidence we've seen paint a picture of a man who's lost control of his company. It especially comes into focus with how badly they botched some of their recent releases. The Vision Pro is an easy example as well. These massively overpriced goggles don't really offer anything in the long term to the average consumer, even if they could afford them. They were never meant to be a mass market product, more of a tech demo for the future possibilities of the product. Even with Apple's signature touch, there were clearly lots of problems to iron out. The biggest is that most people can't wear it for more than half an hour before they feel physically sick or exhausted. Batteries are a huge problem with this as well. Either you just plug it in, wear a charger backpack, or lose all the functionality when you throttle the power usage. And with AI taking center stage as well, and with Ray-Ban Meta glasses, it's just a product that's very easy for people to forget about. And it all makes you ask, what's really going on within Apple? Well, we know a few of the details, and they aren't pretty. A report on Apple's internal workings has shown the world that things have been dysfunctional within Apple for years. For Steve Jobs, Siri was one of his last pet projects. Ever since he saw and bought the company behind the earliest version of Siri, he had believed it was an integral part of the future of the company. Under Tim Cook, Siri was first worked on by Apple's AI team. An executive called Robbie Walker ran the day-to-day. And according to insiders, he put much less pressure on the team compared to other parts of Apple. Under him, development crawled along at a snail's pace. Sometimes it would change hands. Apparently the software development team also had a go at working on Siri at some point. But despite this team's reputation as harsh taskmasters, it doesn't seem like they had any time to make a difference. And as the AI revolution is unfolding in front of our eyes, years of inaction has blown up in Apple's faces. What could have been the future of Siri, which they had ignored for years, was making other companies billions. Apple clearly needed to get ahead in the AI game, but the company was and still is so fractured that they haven't gotten anywhere. At WWDC 2024, when Apple showed off all the new features that Siri would apparently have, it surprised the world.
Apple Intelligence will enable your iPhone, iPad, and Mac to understand and create language, as well as images, and take action for you to simplify interactions across your apps.
But apparently nobody was more surprised than the engineers actually working on Siri. Lots of Siri's AI intelligence was completely faked. Apple has been doing this for years, but it's a real problem when they can't deliver the real thing later on. The engineers actually making a smarter Siri weren't anywhere near finished. They hadn't even tested it. Yet there it was, front and center of the marketing material. Release was just 2 months away, and they knew they had pretty much nothing. Owing to this disaster, the software team are now back in control, but Apple has a long way to go before their AI team is competitive again, and it might actually be too late, as lots of other companies have been pouring all of their income into AI. It's now just common for tech companies to poach the smartest engineers and the most effective executives from each other, often using $100 million pay packages as bait, especially when it comes to AI researchers. And Apple has lost lots of its key engineers just recently as Meta poached 2 of their best and brightest minds after stealing their boss. It's clear that Apple is absolutely floundering with AI. Lots of people thought their reliance on ChatGPT was going to be a stopgap, something to tide them over until they came up with their own AI. But recent adverts from Apple show that this might just be part of their long-term strategy at this point.
Elon Musk threatening to sue Apple over the tech giant's App Store ranking for Grok AI chatbot versus OpenAI's ChatGPT. Now,
and it's this kind of reliance that's going to be crippling for Apple in the future and can actually kill the company, as it will undermine all of their AI strategy. The more they use OpenAI and Microsoft services in their phones, the less important Apple Intelligence seems to their customers. And that's when they start losing control of their crown jewel iOS. Even now, they're advertising their product as a way to use someone else's service. And today, Apple Intelligence is next to useless for the average user, and it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. People bought the iPhone 16 specifically for Apple Intelligence, and even with the 17 on the horizon, it still hasn't really released yet. And the question is, how long is it going to be until people just switch to a phone, computer, or tablet actually made by the AI company whose software they use? Already Johnny Ive is making this stuff for OpenAI, and that's just one relatively small company in the tech space. All of this points to Apple as a company that's good at extracting value from its customers today, but not much else. Now with everyone banking on AI, Apple is too far behind to ever compete. Years of stagnation have left them unprepared to deal with this, and the company is so internally divided that change comes very slowly anyway. Even Apple's most ardent critics shouldn't wish for their demise though. It's good for the ecosystem to have more competitors and different options, and losing their customer base and having to work for them again would probably help the company in the long run anyway.
The New York Post just released a piece with your name in it. They called you Hassan's rival. I do have to say that I think that, actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't say this. I can say that. I can say
He's going to say it. Oh, he's going to say it. But first, context. So in the last month, Hassan has gone through a generational run of puff pieces trying to restore his image in what he calls terrorist insurance.
I did times 100, which I like to call terrorism insurance. This will make the people that constantly cynically claim that I'm a terrorist look even dumber.
This isn't a music video, Hassan.
We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do.
I believe what the Houthis are doing is a good thing. 10 toes fucking down.
Now his latest puff piece made by GQ magazine was such a complete glaze fest that it backfired on him.
An army of girls and gays, not to mention admiring looks and maxers, would kill to be where I am now next to Piker as he pants in a pair of neon shorts with black Calvin Klein boxers poking out and sunlight glinting off the sweat beaded on his chest hairs.
Definitely does not paint a positive view to the general public as someone who should be listened to about politics. You're wrong about that. Too woke syndrome. See, Asmongold said this article sucks. Well, Asmongold doesn't know how to fucking read. Why do you care about what his perspective is?
Just to be clear, at this point of the stream, Asmon didn't even mention the article once.
I am an experienced media personality. I have an understanding of how these things work. This is literally my professional job, and I'm telling you, my assessment of this is that this is a very good, very humanizing piece.
I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I can just say it. So a lot of people were like kind of saying how, you know, like Hassan, how Hassan has gotten a lot of like posts and everything, these articles written about him and like other opportunities. Yeah, and everybody knows we're rep by the same agency. And like people have even been saying like, bro, like Hassan's agents are working overtime. I told them that. They appreciate the compliments. They do. They're like, thanks, they're seeing our hard work. And what does your agency do for you? Oh, it's real simple. It's basically just getting sponsorship. Do you never take? I haven't taken sponsorships. I pretty much just said nope. That I was like, no, I just don't have time for this because of this shit with my dad, right? They never do any PR for you compared to Hassan, though? Well, I would never ask. I don't ask for that. I mean, I'm in a position now where I don't really have to, you know, like try to go and get anything else.
I do! I'm asking right now. Get him the Rogan interview, you lazy bums. They're in the same city.
Well, they did it. Roblox decided to double down on their decision to ban and threaten legal action against someone that was trying to keep their platform safer for children, a responsibility Roblox doesn't seem to want to do themselves, at least not in an efficient way. So the quick and dirty of it, if you don't know the lore, I'll give you the nutshell breakdown here. I made a video on it a couple days ago, but earlier this week, a YouTuber named Schlep just got permanently IP banned by Roblox HQ and threatened with legal action because he colored outside the lines here. He was a little naughty in the eyes of the Roblox corpo overlords, the fucking weasels in suits over there, those grease goblins. Apparently when Schlep was young, he was the victim of a bad actor on Roblox, and as he grew up, he wanted to do what he could to make the platform safer for children so they didn't have to experience what he did. And thus he started actively catching predators and has actually had a few of them even arrested. He is doing what he can to just try and make the platform safer. Roblox takes a huge issue with that. One of the big criticisms of Roblox that has existed for years is how poorly they handle predators on Roblox. They are very hands-off when it comes to safety. Basically, their philosophy boils down to the old Luigi method in Mario Party, where if you do nothing, maybe you'll win. But in this case, that is not happening. You see, their tactics here of basically just plugging their ears and closing their eyes and then wiping their ass with all of the reports that flood in, it's led to a massive issue with Roblox where there has been a very common occurrence of predators preying on kids through their platform. You've probably seen tons and tons of headlines about pedophiles through Roblox by this point. It's very clear that they are not efficient when it comes to handling this. So, the community has begun policing themselves, and Schlep was among those that were trying to do what they could to catch the predators and have them arrested, but it's not like they were going behind Roblox's back for it. Schlep was actively providing Roblox all of the evidence, all of the reports, even sending a physical binder to the Roblox headquarters, and still they sat on their hands, put their thumb up their ass, and spun around on it or something. I guess when the package arrived there, they must have treated it like the Unabomber was trying to reach them or something. Like, Schlep and all of these other predator catchers on Roblox are actively trying to go through the proper channels, so Roblox will be the ones to act on it, but they just haven't been. At least not enough, clearly, because there's still a huge problem on Roblox with this. So, Roblox shut him down and threatened legal action. That has led to a huge shitstorm for Roblox, rightfully so. This has made headlines across the globe here. A wacky new development is apparently Roblox Corporation's chief safety officer, Matthew Kaufman, just sold over $800,000 worth of company stock shortly after the platform issued a cease and desist to Schlep. Looking like a little panic over there at the HQ. That is seeming like there's some holes in the ship. You don't often see the chief safety officer cash out that much stock in the wake of a huge debate about the safety of the platform that he is supposed to be managing and operating efficiently. Sounds like he's a little worried that people are more alert to how poorly Roblox itself handles safety in general. Another thing that happened is a congressman is also now making a push for Roblox to do more to keep children safe on their platform. It's gotten so big Roblox couldn't ignore it any further, so they put out a statement clarifying and doubling down on their decision to fight back against the vigilante groups, which is mind-boggling, just straight up fucking reflaffitating that they thought that this was somehow like a W, like a PR win here. We are fighting back against the vigilante groups. And then crickets when it comes to pedophiles. Why aren't you fighting the pedophiles? Why are you laser focused with the fucking crosshairs on the vigilantes that are fighting the pedophiles? Like, this is a wild hill to die on. We are sharing more information about why it was necessary to remove vigilantes from Roblox and the ways in which we review and act on reports of abuse on Roblox. While seemingly well-intentioned, the vigilantes we've banned have taken action that are both unacceptable and create an unsafe environment for users. I just need to stop right here and just take a pause. Schlepp and other vigilantes catching predators is not making the game more unsafe than it currently is by just having those predators running rampant with no one to stop them because you are not efficiently stopping them. Like, this is a crazy stance to take. Similar to actual predators, they often impersonate minors, actively approached other users, then tried to lead them to other platforms to have sexually explicit conversations, which is against our terms of use. Accurate, timely reporting from our community is important. Reporting through the appropriate channels, including our custom-designed reporting tools, immediately and with as much specific information as possible is the best way to help us remove bad actors from Roblox. These reporting tools are designed to capture key metadata and details that cannot be captured from an email or screenshot and enable faster, more efficient reviews and more thorough reporting to law enforcement when warranted. I'm going to take another break here real quick. When does that go live? Because that's definitely not live right now. Like, what do you mean? Like, that is the biggest problem. Everything you're saying right there is an absolute gobbledygook. Like, that's just mumbo jumbo. You're just saying words that aren't real. That is the big problem. No matter how many times people are reporting these bad actors through your channels, there is no efficient, fast reviewing that leads to the person being, kicked off the platform. There's so many cases of predators who have literally been arrested that still actually have their Roblox accounts live. Like, what are you talking about? That is blatantly false. And that is the issue. You can say you have all these tools and that you take in all of these reviews, but there's nothing that really shows that. It doesn't seem like if that is the case, it's made any difference. Maybe you need to overhaul that, or maybe you need to beef it up or something. Maybe you should work with the vigilante groups instead of vilifying them because they're doing a better job at getting the predators captured and taken off the platform than your systems are. I don't know why you view the vigilantes as enemies. Again, I can understand in general why vigilantes could be a bad thing, like on a broad scale, but when the company isn't doing things to ensure the safety of the users, well, vigilantes are super necessary to step in to do it for them, to keep the platform safe, because you are just not doing your job. Like, it makes no sense to me that they would be so combative with someone like Schlepp, where they'd cease and desist, ban him, and then threaten legal action. You could work with him. Why don't you guide him through the proper channels? He is doing a good service by getting these predators arrested. It is something you are not doing enough of. We realize that no platform is perfect, but we prioritize trust and safety because it's core to what we do as a company. It doesn't really seem like you prioritize it, by the way. It seems like your CEO is prioritizing trying to turn it into a fucking dating site for 17+, which, again, by the way, is a really weird age where he's trying to pitch a 17+ dating service to a company, Roblox, so it'd be half gaming and half dating. It seems like that's the focus, because Dave fucking Bazooki here, the CEO of Roblox, can't stop yapping about it. It doesn't seem like the priority is trust and safety. That's all I'm saying. This is an area where we invest heavily and are always innovating. Helping keep our users safe is a critical part of our vision of connecting 1 billion people with optimism and civility, and is a strategic imperative for our creator community. And then just a bunch of blabbering here, all of which it doesn't seem to be true. Again, I understand they can't wipe them all out instantly, but it's clear that reports are falling on deaf ears. Like, there are predators, real predators, with irrefutable evidence that Roblox is not acting on. So there is a problem here, and it doesn't seem like they're doing enough. Then they go on to talk about, like, just how many messages and how many users are on Roblox. Again, I understand there's millions and millions and a lot to go through, a lot to comb through, which is why, again, I don't understand why they wouldn't be extending an olive branch to the vigilante groups who are clearly doing a good job at catching real predators that are on their platform. Roblox is missing them in a lot of cases. I don't know why they wouldn't want to work with them. Again, as they mention here, they've got, fucking billions of messages that get across, billions of reports that swipe across their desk every day. why wouldn't you work with the community that is actively trying to help you and help keep the platform safe? So now they talk about why they've decided to remove vigilantes. We have been monitoring vigilante activity on Roblox for some time. These groups began by reporting safety concerns, commenting on news about Roblox, and challenging us to do better. We appreciate this feedback and use these reports to improve our safety systems. More recently, vigilante activity evolved. Instead of just reporting on safety issues, vigilantes started impersonating children and actively sought to connect with adult users. Those conversations mimicked inappropriate behavior and actively encouraged other users to connect on other social media and messaging platforms, thus bypassing Roblox's own safety systems. These were not one-off situations, and we saw the behavior accelerating across many accounts. This actively created an unsafe environment and normalized behavior that is both unacceptable on Roblox and is against our terms of use. Our policies prohibit directing other users off Roblox to another platform through chat and having/simulating sexually explicit conversations. These are serious policy violations that risk removal from the platform. Just reread your statement here, Roblox. You recognize that these groups were reporting all of this to you, and then you're confused on why they started doing more than just reporting. Could it possibly be because all of the reports they were sending your way for so long weren't leading to the predators getting kicked off the platform or anything? Could that possibly be the reason? Could you follow that trail of breadcrumbs of logic? Like, I don't know how they can be so delusional to not recognize the reason why it evolved beyond just reporting and then they started using like decoys to try and get more evidence is because you weren't acting on the reports. Thus, they gathered more evidence on these bad actors and turned it over to authorities who did act on it. The evidence was sufficient for the police to issue arrests and get the predators. But it wasn't enough for you guys to ban them or do anything like the bare minimum to protect children from these bad actors, these evil people. Like, I don't know why they're confused. They're making it sound like it's some kind of epidemic that spiraled out of control and Roblox was just doing everything by the book perfectly, when that's just not the case. The reason why it evolved so much is because you weren't doing enough. So the community started taking it upon themselves to try and act and do better and ensure the platform was a little safer for whatever they could do. They then have this section on the importance of accurate reporting, going over like they needs to act in accordance with their policies and all of that, and then due to privacy considerations, we cannot inform users whether reports have led to consequences. But the thing about that claim is, to me it seems like they're trying to hide behind their numbers. Like, we get so many reports and we just can't inform you if like your report led to that person getting banned, but just trust us, it probably did. Like, we're actually like, we're doing such a good job at getting them all banned. But the thing is, people aren't that fucking stupid. When you have found a bad actor, if you have found a predator and you're reporting that person, a lot of these people are following those accounts to ensure that they get banned because they are a danger to the community. And in a lot of cases, they're not getting banned. Like, they know that there hasn't been consequences. Whether or not Roblox is telling them, people can see for themselves when the accounts aren't banned. They then talk about how they actually go above and beyond. They work with law enforcement, following official legal guidelines around when it's appropriate to collaborate with them and provide information to help track bad actors across platforms to help keep users safe even beyond Roblox. In 2024, they submitted 24,522 reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They then say that on multiple occasions they found vigilante groups holding the reports to Roblox until after they had coordinated real-life meetups and built their own social media posts, and then explain why that's a bad thing, about how waiting to report to Roblox or the relevant authorities means alleged bad actors could potentially remain on the platform longer, leaving the community open to additional risks of harm. And they close out this section by saying that they recognize the community's frustration with how they handle violative behavior outside of Roblox, but they can't always act on all of it because a lot of it's screenshots and other messaging applications that need to be independently confirmed, because without verification it would open up significant abuse and misuse and all of that, so they have to do their due diligence. Overall, this is them saying that they actually take the reports very seriously and that they actually do a lot to try and keep Roblox safe, even beyond Roblox. They then also claim that some of the vigilante groups are like making social media posts about all of these bad actors before even reporting to Roblox. Of course, I don't know if that's all true or not. Very well could be. But the point still stands. There are a lot of bad actors on Roblox, even with all of the reports they act on and the ones that they report to the proper authorities. There is still a huge infestation of these evil people. And the vigilante groups, the ones that Roblox is fighting tooth and nail against, whether they like it or not, they are making a difference in making the platform safer. Roblox can you know, submit all of these reports and do as much as they can, but as they showcase, they get so many and they can't go through all of them. They can't thoroughly investigate every single one. They can't analyze every single screenshot from every off-platform message. They know that. They do even hint at that. But these vigilante groups, in a lot of cases, do go the extra mile for a lot of these individuals, and it leads to them getting arrested and away from children. It takes the predator away from victims. It makes the platform safer. It's not something Roblox should be battling against so vehemently. I really just don't understand why they don't try and work more collaboratively with people like Schlepp or Gideon, who are actively getting these predators arrested. That's the big problem. Roblox isn't doing enough to keep children safe, and instead of like trying to find more ways of keeping predators away from children, instead they're trying to legally strong-arm vigilantes into silence and just leaving it all alone and letting Roblox handle it. Put their trust in Roblox, a platform that has repeatedly let down so many people when it comes to getting these bad actors taken off the platform and away from victims. It is a problem that Roblox has done nothing to help with this statement here. This doubling down about this being like some kind of righteous fight against vigilantes is just so off the mark, it's crazy. They then spend a paragraph giving you a tutorial on how to report users, which is just completely useless. It's like giving you a tutorial on how to get ice cream at McDonald's. The fucking machines are broken. It's useless. Like, you can report people till the cows come home. It's not working. That is the issue. They then talk about their Trusted Flagger program, where close and trusted partners can report serious criminal activity such as terrorism, violent extremism, or child exploitation directly to Roblox. And the idea is that the Trusted Flaggers are someone that Roblox puts a lot of weight on with their reports. But the Trusted Flagger program, while it sounds good in theory, is actually highly neglected. And from what I've read from a bunch of people with this program in particular, it doesn't do anything more than just a normal report. It doesn't seem like they actually take into consideration the trusted flag more than the normal report. Overall, I found this response from Roblox to be horrible. The doubling down was just a terrible call here, and it almost reads like Roblox is more upset that people are aware of the predator problem as opposed